Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our 8th and final installment of Navigating the Pandemic webinar series hosted by the Tisch College for Civic Life. Once again, I am Derek Sosa, a rising senior at Tufts studying environmental health. As always, if you have questions throughout the webinar, please submit them via the Q&A feature rather than the chat so that the chat is not distracting to our speakers. We will do our best to have speakers respond to your questions at the end of their segment. As a reminder, there is an optional discussion group today from 12:30 to 1 p.m. To join, just click the Zoom meeting link posted on Canvas. Discussion groups are informal and a great opportunity for you to meet and engage with your peers. Throughout this webinar series, we have had the pleasure of having many guests come and speak to all of us on a wide range of topics, from building resilience in civic engagement to inclusive communities, and from self-care to all facets of civic action. We have tried to use this webinar series as an attempt to inform ourselves and our viewers on what we can do to change our communities from on campus to off of it. Of course, the series was made in the midst of very troubling times in our country and world. We continue to be affected by the COVID-19 pandemic incredibly in the United States, and thousands of people are dying by the day. We have also had the opportunity to have this series in the midst of growing civil unrest around the world on structural and systemic racism that is still present at Tufts, in our neighborhoods, in our cities, our states, and our countries. We hope that this series does inspire all of us to action, whether it be large scale or by just being more mindful of the actions we do on a day-to-day basis. We must continue to strive for a more equitable and inclusive space wherever we go, and we must do that by standing up to all injustices, no matter what form. Let us be able to read, to learn, to listen, and to be mindful of the lives of the most marginalized, and to arm ourselves with the strength to fight for a more equitable tomorrow. As a first-gen, low-income Dominican student from New York City, the fight, unfortunately, will never stop for me and people like me. But I hope that I can say that my people are not alone in the constant struggle to belong. So today's session will focus on art and mindfulness for well-being and social change. And we have so many great guests with great activities. I want to thank you all for tuning into our series for the last 2 months, and I hope you have enjoyed it as much as we have. So with that, I'm going to introduce Victoria Price. Victoria, as you may know from the last few series, she is a 2017 graduate of Tufts with a BA in Sociology. She now, as of May 2020, has a master's degree in social policy from UPenn. She is the associate editor of Cosmos Journal for Global Transformation and the co-author of a book chapter titled Social Emotional Competence, Vital to Cultivating Mindful Global Citizenship in Higher Education. Victoria is a mindfulness practitioner and is a certified yoga teacher. Hi, Victoria.
Good morning. Thank you for the intro.
Good morning.
All right, guys, so like last week, I'm going to be standing for this practice. You're welcome to stand with me or to stay seated. So we'll start off with just a little bit of breathing, and then we'll do a little bit of gentle yoga just with the upper body, and then we'll finish with some breathing. So take your time, maybe soften or close down the eyes, find a comfortable seat or a comfortable stance, and we'll start to breathe here. So taking a nice slow inhale through the nose and an exhale through the nose. I'm just letting everything settle here, breathing in and breathing out. We're going to start with some rotations of the shoulders here. So beginning to draw the shoulders up towards your ears, we'll draw them back and down. So again, drawing shoulders up, back, and down, and just finding a few rotations of that in this direction, keeping the breath nice and smooth. And then we'll take it in the opposite direction. So drawing shoulders back, up, and forward, and letting them drop down. And then coming back to stillness when you're ready. On the next inhale, we'll start to sweep our hands up above the head, and we'll interlace fingers here and draw them back behind the neck. So if this is uncomfortable, you can just let the hands come to the lap. So just taking care of your shoulders here, doing whatever feels comfortable for you. We'll take some rotations of the upper body. So just starting to let the head drop down towards the right, coming forward over to the left, I'm mirroring you, and then dropping the head back. So continuing like that, and if your hands are by your side, it'll just kind of look something like this. So letting the upper body be nice and fluid. And then as you're ready, we'll take it in the opposite direction. So either hands at the side or behind your head, rotating the opposite way. And then coming back through center, if you have the hands lifted, releasing them. A nice deep breath in and out. And then inhaling here, we'll reach arms up. And we'll twist over towards the left. So letting hands come down. Right hand is forward, left hand is back. We're looking back towards the left hand, or if having the arms up is uncomfortable, just looking at the left shoulder. And then inhaling, drawing up through center, exhaling to the other side. And again, arms can come down or they can stay lifted, looking over your back shoulder. And then inhaling, arms sweep up. And on exhale, again, we'll interlace fingers, but we'll draw them in front of us. We'll press the palms forward, letting the shoulders relax. Nice deep breath in. And deep breath out. And then we're going to take a little forward fold here. So you can do this seated. You might want to just kind of scoot to the edge of your seat. If you're standing or seated, we'll interlace fingers at the back here. We'll inhale to lift the chest up, and then we'll just fold over the lap. So nice and easy here, just coming forward. I'm going to go out of frame for a second. And then wherever you are, you're going to want to use that inhale to draw yourself back up nice and slowly, releasing the hands. Another deep inhale, deep exhale, letting those shoulders settle. And again, we'll soften the eyes here. Let's place both hands over the chest. So just one hand on the chest, other right on top, letting the eyes be soft, breathing in. Breathing out. Noticing how your body feels after a little bit of movement, after some breath. And then as you're ready, we'll all start to draw the palms together, keeping the eyes closed. We'll start to rub the hands together, creating some heat and friction in between the palms. And then hands come over the eyes, over the cheeks. And giving the brow bone a nice little massage, massaging the temples here, and then tracing the jawline. And then just bowing the head gently, starting to blink open the eyes. And as you're ready, coming back. Thank you, guys. I'm going to pass it back to Derek.
Thank you so much, Victoria. And thank you for all of the mindfulness activities you've done for the past few weeks. So now I'm going to introduce the other panelists for the first session. So first, I'm going to be introducing William Liu. So William Liu is a 2021 Tufts University undergraduate mechanical engineering student with a minor in engineering management. At Tufts, he has excelled as a student leader. He is a senior advisor for the Tufts Engineering Student Council and recently served as its president. Last year, he was elected as one of 25 Tufts Laid Law Scholars, giving him the opportunity to work across multiple disciplines under the supervision of James Interlace in the Human Factors Research Lab, a catalyst for a wide range of devices for physical and digital prototyping. Using his expertise with 3D printing, William has created crucially needed adapters for innovative masks for healthcare providers. Taeya Boi-Doku is currently studying human rights and justice at Drexel University and is a Thrive Global Campus editor at large. She is on the board of Inward Bound Mindfulness Education and works with the Mindfulness Director Initiative. In 2018, Taeya was selected as winner of the New York Times International Photography Contest entitled Show Us Your Generation, which explored media and adult stereotypes about youth through photography. Her photos can be found at taeya.org. She sees mindfulness as a pivotal foundation on which strength, resiliency, and joy are built upon. And the moderator for the session will be Abigail Alpern Fisch, who just graduated from Tufts this May. She has a BA in Peace and Justice Studies with a minor in Sociology. She is currently a Tisch Summer Fellow with Americans for the Arts for the second summer. On campus, she was involved as an after-school teacher for the Leonard Carmichael Society Peace Games, founder of the Peace and Justice Society, a Gerald Gill Fellow with Center for the Study of Race and Democracy, and a Tisch College Dialogue Facilitator. And she is now a choral mindfulness student as well. So I want to welcome all three of you to this session this morning.
Thanks, Derek. Hi, everyone. As Derek just said, I am Abigail Alpern Fisch, and I recently graduated from Tufts in May with a degree in Peace and Justice Studies. And I'm so excited to be here today as a student advisor for the Tisch Summer Webinar Series. And thank you to our panelists for the first segment, Taeya, Victoria, and William. How are you all today?
Doing well.
Great. So I am so excited about today's panel topic, as mindfulness and art are both very important to me personally. When I was a first year at Tufts, I took part in the Koru Mindfulness Meditation Workshop offered by Tufts Health Services, which helped me tremendously in promoting my well-being and giving me the skills I needed to reinforce how mindfulness can be a part of all practices in our daily life. I also have recently participated in a Koru teacher training so that I can hopefully offer these courses to other young adults and members of the Tufts community. So for our panelists, I'm going to ask about 3 questions, and I ask that you try to answer within 2 minutes so that we can be okay on time. So we can start with Taeya. My first question is, how did you initially become involved with mindfulness practices, and what does mindfulness mean to you?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I was first introduced to mindfulness my freshman year of high school through just a mandatory school program. It's something everyone did. And I've kind of never really let go of that introduction. I've just kind of deepened into my practice and kept doing it. And what mindfulness means to me is being given the skills to live a healthy, balanced, like gratitude-filled life and lifestyle. So it's really just a great toolkit that I've been lucky enough to know about for a couple years now.
Great, thank you. William?
Hi. Yeah, I think I started my mindfulness journey when I was a junior in high school. So I was really stressed about SAT and like college application and all that. And I was at a state that I don't very feel confident about myself. And I was introduced to meditation and yoga, and it brings me this mindful state, which helps me to reach kind of like a place where I feel that I am present. So mindfulness to me is all about being present, and it's all about not worry too much about the future, the unknowns, and not regretting the decision I've ever made. But all that matter is being present and work on the stuff that's important for now.
Great, thank you. And Victoria, who I actually met Victoria when I was a freshman at Tufts and had just finished my Koru mindfulness training and was helping Deborah Donahue-Keegan, who put this webinar series together. And I was looking up to Victoria as she was graduating, and it's so exciting to see her again now.
Well, thank you for saying that. That's very sweet. So I guess I would say my curiosity for mindfulness and specifically yoga came from my grandmother, who was Indian and used to always have chants playing at home and lighting incense and meditating. So I was always curious about her practice. And then the physical practice of yoga, I think, was introduced to me as an athlete. And among all the different modalities and practices that I have been introduced to, definitely the breath awareness was a salient piece of it all that really has stuck with me. So deepening into that aspect of mindfulness has been kind of a key part of my journey.
Great, thank you all. So concise. I wanted to next ask you each, how has mindfulness either helped to facilitate your community and civic engagement work or expanded it? And feel free to explain more what that work is beyond just your bios.
I can start. I think that, so obviously, like as a yoga teacher, I'm in a mindfulness setting a lot of times But as we're also in this webinar talking about themes of white supremacy and racism and things like that, the yoga industry is something that's really seeped in that. And so bringing that level of awareness and mindfulness and being able to really engage in dialogue around these things in a setting in which everyone wants to kind of be at peace and send light to each other, engaging with these really difficult conversations about these social realities that are that this industry is grounded in has been important. So I think just having the bravery and also like the calmness to engage people in those types of conversations has been important to me in integrating all of these things that are important to me.
Definitely. I know for myself, my own practice helped me a lot with articulating kind of all these weights I felt on top of me. And once I kind of had the articulation down, being able to sit and kind of like William was saying, be really in the present and not think too much about the future, what people will say or possible judgment thoughts. Having that practice really allowed me to feel confident in expressing my voice and using it. And in the many spaces I've like leaded my high school's first ever like Black and Latinx affinity group. I went on to do the same sort of work in college, and now I'm doing this internship with another mindfulness organization. Having this practice has really allowed me to say something when I feel it, to say, kind of like with yoga, the meditative space is a lot of, especially the one I work in, I went to school in New England, it's very kind of white New England, white collar space, and kind of being able to step in those spaces and know that I'm going to speak my truth and say it with the goal of being compassionate to others is something I would not have been able to do before, or even felt the comfort, the confidence, the spaciousness around opening up these topics, which really need to be addressed if we're gonna feel all the positive effects and even just the presence of what our reality is. They need to be spoken about. And I think my practice has allowed me to speak.
I think I can approach this question in two ways. So first of all, with my experience working in the engineering student council, working with other engineering students, I feel like engineers are very tense. We're always like so stressed about like projects, homework, and want to be excel, want to go to a good company right after college. And mental health and being mindful about your present, your health is actually something got neglected a lot in this engineering environment. And a lot of people don't really associate me as, someone good with, mindfulness stuff, or like someone who practice yoga a lot. They recognize me more in terms of like how what skill I have, what industry I'm working in. So this is something I've been trying to promote more in the student council, and I think it's very important for this student body that I'm representative of to realize how important this is. And another way is that another thing I want to mention is how mindfulness, as I said, helped me to kind of like realize being present is very important, and able to make social civic action at the time we need to is crucial. So basically, when the pandemic started, I came from China, and when it was really bad at home, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't help my parents. I'm really worried about my family back home. And when it came to the US, the only thing I had on mind is that how can I do something now? Since I couldn't help my parents back home when this all started in January, how can we make it better? How can we use whatever I learned, what I can help to make this contribution to this societies that I am in and I am part of. So that's why I got involved in this math project, which mentioned in my bio.
Great, thank you. And I want to turn it to Victoria and Taeya if there's anything you want to add about how you've used mindfulness in response to COVID-19 or supporting your friends, family, communities, if there's anything you wanted to add.
Sure. Well, I guess in trying to define mindfulness or what my practice means to me, over the past few months, I realized that I think I used to have a very narrow definition, that when I'm sitting for meditation, specifically at like this time in the morning before I do anything else, like that's my practice. And over the past few months, so many more things have been put under that umbrella, whether it's walking or calling a friend. And I think that I've now kind of come to this definition of regarding my mindfulness practice as regarding my well-being as sacred, and being able to kind of put that above and prioritize it above other things, which I know as like an undergraduate or graduate student is really hard to do. But once you start to kind of see the results of what holding your well-being as sacred can give you, then it starts to reinforce that belief that it is a priority. So that's kind of how I've tried to frame it for myself over the past few weeks, and allow more things to fit under that umbrella.
I agree, like wholeheartedly with that. I feel like I practice a lot of before the pandemic and before all this uncertainty, I practiced a lot of sitting meditation and lying down meditation. I practiced yoga, but now I feel like I'm practicing more of a living mindfulness, because so many, I guess in regular life, it's easy to kind of work through emotion and questioning and all of our thoughts kind of as if it's a baseline, because everything is normal and, oh, this is just what happens. But kind of being in this time period where everyone knows this is very not normal. This is very not the typical, I can kind of go on autopilot part of my life. It's really forced me to have that mindfulness, like sitting with me, to know how my body is feeling, to kind of feel into my emotions. What am I feeling right now? So that I don't kind of come up against this wall of, oh, I'm fine, this is normal. And then I am completely not fine and my mind is in a whirlwind and I actually have all these thoughts. Like going through this pandemic with this practice has made me have to incorporate mindfulness on the cushion, off the cushion, yoga on the mat, off the mat. And it's really built up a certain type of resiliency and just openness to my emotions and to the thoughts that come up and acceptance of them. Because for me to be healthy, there's really no other option. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. For anyone to answer, I know that for me, when trying to communicate why mindfulness is so important to me, I often face skeptics of, well, but isn't that just a personal practice? Isn't that just for you or for your own self-care? And I was wondering if anyone wants to touch on why mindfulness is so important for us to be able to have even more mindful communities and taking care of each other. And especially during turbulent times, how can we encourage more people to make this a part of their individual practice so that we can move forward together in dealing with really challenging problems?
That's a good question. Unless someone else wants to start, I can. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a really great question. And I've started to kind of think of it as like concentric circles. So starting with you at the center, and how can you establish a practice that allows you to navigate your day with more ease? And then starting to build that out to how can you establish a practice that supports you with talking with your friends or your parents or your partner, and then your coworkers, and establishing a practice that allows you to take in more and create more space for others while still maintaining boundaries and not having to take on other people's experiences as your own, but having a practice that creates more space for yourself and allows you to be in authentic connection and relationship with others. And then you can take it to that next level, what Taeya was also talking about with, really speaking your truth, not in this like, she was saying like really telling people like, this is who I am, this is what I'm coming to the table with, regardless of how the context is, especially, in institutions like universities that are predominantly white or workspaces that are predominantly white. That's where you start to really get into the difficult aspects of communicating and navigating you know, these challenging things that can come up. So again, starting with that first circle though of yourself and allowing it to grow as gradually as you need it to, I think can be part of that.
I really resonate with what Victoria mentioned. I think mindfulness to me is all about being aware. So being aware that your friend needs your help, being aware that you are living at a difficult time, being aware that I had a really good morning and now I'm in the woods and the weather is fabulous, the trees are pretty, and all this kind of stuff. So if everyone in the society can have some sort of mindfulness awareness, instead of like focusing on like, oh, this, we have to deal with this matter or this problem we have to fix, it's more about we be aware about what each other feel and how we can approach this in an altruistic way, how we can kind of like resolve this, which everyone can, you know, fully aware of each other. That's what my take is.
Yeah. I feel what you guys said a lot. I feel like another way to phrase this question that I've been asked a lot recently is kind of, you know, why should people do mindfulness? Why mindfulness now? And I feel like the best analogy I've kind of thought of in my head is to see mindfulness and meditation and these meditative practices like yoga as groundwater that supports a lot of other seeds and a lot of other plants that we'd like to grow. Some of them being like compassion and attentiveness, awareness, gratitude, joy, like resiliency, strength. All these things kind of sprout out from a foundation that is mindful. And I feel like as so many people are realizing that we need to radically redefine how we take care of others, how we take care of ourselves, and how we take care of our communities, we need to grow a lot of these skills. And these skills all start from a place of, like William was saying, being attentive, being able to see your today reality and how beautiful some things are and how really, really broken and hurting and pulsating some other things are, and taking both and knowing these both exist in reality. And I have the will, I have the power, I have the capacity to engage with both of them. And I just think a lot of people could really use some mindfulness. Yeah, can really use some of that, being able to see what is and know that you can handle it because we're well equipped and no one's really alone. There's a lot of community, and that's something you also get with a lot of practice. There are a lot of really good mindful communities that just spring up from that wanting to share.
We have one right here. It's great. I have one more question. You've each kind of touched upon this, but how would you encourage other students at Tufts and around the world to take steps to bring mindfulness into their life?
Yeah, I know for myself, when I was first like trying to say, how can I literally step by step be mindful? For me, it was starting with my showers. I'm a long shower person. I'm trying to get better, but I love it. And so for me, a lot of it was being in the shower. I used to always play music in high school, but just listening to what the water sounds like, or like noticing, like I like to like switch the dial and like have a different tempo of water. Like, what does that feel like beating on your skin? And then, because that's so like sensory involved. And then other things are like walking is really great, and walking and not listening to music. My school, my university's in the city. So I had a week where I just did not listen. My AirPods were out the whole week, walking from class to class and just hearing the sounds that are around you. If you're speaking to somebody, like try and look them in their eye, and you'll realize how much people don't keep eye contact, and what their voice sounds like and how their features are moving. Like just starting to try and build a little bit of attentiveness and things you already do. If going and sitting silently for 10 minutes feels a little intimidating, or going and doing a long yoga practice is like, oh, I can't do that. Everyone can do it, but there's ways to incorporate it really easily into the lives we already live.
So I think to me, one thing that really helped me being mindful is that I set a lot of routines. My friends know me as someone who kind of like, if someone messes up my schedule, I'll be pissed. But having, so for example, my morning routine really starts with a good cup of coffee. So this process of making a cup of coffee and have it set on the table and finish the coffee is, I know a lot of people do that, but how many people actually realize that they're drinking a coffee, which is starting their day? And this complete process, this complete routine, and realizing that you're doing this, working on this routine, really help you, bring you into a mindful state, which can help you kids start of the day. I think it will be an easy way to start practicing mindfulness.
And if I could just add, I would probably say finding a balance between structure and flexibility with your practice can be really useful. So I think for me, like limiting the amount of activation energy. So just knowing like every morning I'm going to throw my cushion down on the floor and sit for 5 breaths, 5 minutes, or maybe it's a mindful shower for you or mindful cup of coffee, but establishing a routine that doesn't take a lot of thought, but then also not being too attached to that routine and allowing mindfulness to happen at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, or when you're among other people even. Maybe you're at the beach with your friends and there's a lull in conversation and you just decide to listen to the waves for 60 seconds. So I think having that balance of structure and flexibility or spontaneity with your practice can be useful. And then I think also keeping in mind that as you practice more, it doesn't get easier and you don't start to feel better in a stepwise motion. Like being mindful can really suck sometimes. And I think that's why a lot of us choose not to be. So just noticing like when you're choosing not to be and letting that be okay. And knowing that like if tonight, instead of like meditating, you instead want to have a glass of wine and watch Netflix, that's okay. But just noticing that that's kind of more in the line of distraction rather than tuning in. And when you start to have more awareness about when you are being mindful and when you aren't, then you can start to kind of intervene and spirals that happen or patterns that get out of hand that you don't want to support. So that's kind of the advice I would give if you're trying to start a practice.
That was great. Everything you guys are saying, it just super resonates with me. So I hope that it resonates with others too and motivates them to start bringing mindfulness into all our activities and all our relationships and interactions. But thank you all so much for joining us today. This has been so wonderful. And I invite everyone to write in the chat words of appreciation for our speakers. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, their information or description of who they are is on the Canvas page and at our speaker bios. But thank you, Victoria, William, and Taeya so much for joining us today and talking more about why mindfulness can really help us to enact social change and really promote our own well-being. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I also learned a lot from you guys.
Likewise.
So now we will be inviting Deb Putnoi, who came to an earlier session of the Tisch series. Hi, Deb. To lead us in a drawing exercise. She's also one of our panelists for the second session. So Deb Putnoi is visual artist, educator, and researcher. Deb has a master's in education from the Harvard Graduate School of Education, a 5th-year graduate degree from the School of Museum of Fine Arts, and a BA, BFA from Tufts and the School of Museum of Fine Arts. She has shown her work in solo and group exhibitions nationally and is represented by the Barbara Gilman Gallery in Miami, Florida, the Gail Severin Gallery in Ketchum, Idaho, and the Clark Gallery in the Boston area, and a gallery in the Seattle area. She is the author of The Drawing Mind, and she's going to join us to lead us in an exercise that's both art and mindfulness. And Deb, take it away.
Okay, great. I'm so excited to be here today and to do a little bit of drawing with you. And it's going to tie in a lot with what you guys were saying before. So this is going to be another tool that you'll have in your toolbox when you're wanting to figure out a way to kind of slow down, connect with yourself, and kind of turn off everything that's going on around you. And so I'm going to do a little demo for you. I don't have a lot of time. If you were in my studio, we could spend a long time doing this, but it's called blind contour drawing. And in art school, we do this. This is always taught. You guys might have done it before. I have really grown this as a practice that I do all the time. So when I'm stressing out or having a bad day, I will do a blind contour drawing for a minute or 2 minutes, just as a way to kind of connect with myself, to, as Taeya said, to see what is, to be mindful and to be present. So a way to do this, I hope you guys have just some simple, I have just some simple copy paper here. I have a marker, you can have any kind of pencil or pen. And what I want you to do, and I'll show you how to do it, and then I'm gonna set a timer and you guys can try it yourself. And the first time you do it, you might feel frustrated, and that's okay. It's something that over time, if you practice it, you'll get more and more comfortable doing it, and it will become a way to be kind of mindful and present and not feel, it's just a way to kind of turn yourself into focusing on something outside of yourself, but being present and connected with that thing through drawing. So we're gonna all use our hand today because we all have our hand. And when I was going through a difficult time in my life, I drew my hand every day for 10 minutes. So I'm gonna start with my hand and I'm gonna angle myself so I can't look at my paper. So when you do a blind contour drawing, the goal is that you're gonna draw the thing that you're looking at without looking at your paper while you're drawing it. So I want you to look at your hand, and I'm gonna show you this. I'm gonna just angle my thing down. And so I'm not looking at my paper. You're gonna have to trust me on this. I'm not looking at my hand. So I'm gonna have my hand in front of me, and then wherever my eye travels, my hand with the pen is just gonna go along on that journey. So it's really about connecting with the thing that you're looking at. Now, if you don't wanna do your hand and you have a house plant, or you have an animal next to you, like a dog, you could do it with anything that you have, but your hand you always have with you. So my eye, wherever my eye is traveling, I'm not looking at my paper right now, so you can see me. My eye is traveling up my finger. I made a fist here. I don't know if you can see it. And so this is just a way to connect with yourself, with your seeing. I might do I've done this thumb already once, but my looking is kind of a little bit all over the place, and that's okay. We're just connecting with the thing in front of us. We're just slowing down and drawing the thing that you see, which is your hand. So I'm just gonna finish this up, and then I'm gonna time it so you guys can try. Okay, so this is I know I have like 2 minutes to do this with you guys. So this is just a quick blind contour. Now, it doesn't really matter what comes out on the page. It's a way that you can stop judging yourself with drawing. I know a lot of people feel like drawings have to be perfect. This isn't about a perfect drawing. This is about connecting with yourself, connecting with the thing that you're looking at, and just slowing down and letting go of everything else that's around. So I want to give you a chance. I know I only have a couple more minutes. I'm going to set my timer for a minute. I want you to just angle your body in a way that you can't look down at your paper, and you're just looking at your hand, and then wherever your eye goes, your pen is going to follow along on that journey of looking. So just take a minute. I'm going to set my timer right now, and I can't see what you guys are doing, but I'm going to start the timer, and just let yourself, don't look for that whole minute. That's the hardest part, is not to look down, but just give yourself that time to just connect. Like, this is your hand, it does so much for you, and just connect with your hand and just look at all the little things that you can see while you're drawing, and don't worry about what's coming out on the page. That's just connecting you with your brain and your eye and your hand. You're just slowly connecting, and it's a way to be mindful, a way to be present. It's another tool in your toolkit that you can use when you're feeling stressed out, is to draw anything around you using blind contour drawing. So you have about 20 seconds. $15 seconds. I know it's hard not to look, so just. Okay, so that's a minute. That's a minute of blind contour drawing. So what I want to do, one more. I don't know what I think I have another minute or two. I want you to do another angle of your hand. So maybe you have your hand in a different position. And so I want you to hold your hand in a different, someone's asking, do I put my video on? Or oh, okay, that's for someone else. Okay, I thought someone had a question about blind contour. So put yourself in put your hand in a different position, and then I'm going to do another minute. And you could draw right on top of your first one. Doesn't matter what comes out on the page. We could throw this away, and that would be fine. It's really about connecting, slowing down, and having this kind of mindful connection with something that you're looking at carefully. Okay, so we're going to do one more. So here's one more minute of blind contour, and you can start. And just wherever, just think of it as your eye is taking a journey over this object, over your hand, and wherever your eye goes, your hand is slowly going to travel. Your hand with the pen is going to slowly travel wherever your eye goes. And even if you draw the same thing 2 or 3 times, and the more you do this, the more practiced you get, the more kind of it becomes a meditative practice. So you could do this every day for a minute in the morning, and just it's a way to connect with yourself, with your scene, with slowing down. Can become a way to become calm. Okay, about 15 seconds.
I can show mine.
Okay. Oh, yay. Okay. So that's it. That's the second minute. Yeah, I would love if everyone wanted to show their blind contour. Thank you, Abigail, for showing yours. So have you done that before?
Yes, I've training as a visual artist, so I've done many of those exercises, but had never really thought about it as a mindfulness activity. So thank you.
Yeah, so it's because I was trained as well at the museum, and I really have used it over time for that. And so I would encourage you guys, just as 2 minutes every morning, you could look at anything in your environment, or even before an exam. It's a great way to kind of calm yourself before you're taking an exam. So,
thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So now I'm going to introduce the additional speakers for our second panel, and they're popping up. So first we have Jay Cottle, who actually was in an earlier session of the Tisch series. Hi, Jay, and he has a BA in Arts Management and a Master's in Education in Arts, Community, and Education. And Jay is an educator and arts administrator, musician, and writer. He is the founder and executive director of Dunamis, an organization that educates and supports emerging artists and arts managers of color. He has worked as an arts educator at the Boston Arts Academy, Dorchester Academy, Boston University, Malden Public Schools Reach for the Stars Academy, Bell, and is the Young Civic Leaders Coordinator at Mass Vote. As an arts administrator, he has supported the Community Music Center of Boston, Boston Public Schools Performing Arts Department, and the Berklee College of Music. Jay's work specializes in designing curriculum and OST programs using integrated arts techniques and youth development practices to facilitate transformative growth. Jay is a 2019 National Arts Strategies Creative Community Fellow. Next, we have Daniela Sanchez, a fellow member of the class of 2020, who got her BA in Latin American Studies and Spanish. Daniela is currently the Student Outreach Coordinator at Tisch College, and was a part of the inaugural cohort of the Tufts 1+4 Bridge Year program. On campus, Daniela served as a 1+4 peer leader, mentoring students and preparing them for service abroad. As a Tisch scholar, she also mentored and supported her peers as a TA for the program's foundational course. At the Museum of Fine Arts, she worked on accessibility issues and provided opportunities for visitor reflection of artwork on social justice themes. And for her Tisch Scholar capstone project, Daniela created an art exhibition devoted to political participation. She also served as a Laidlaw Scholar, conducting research on bilingual education and language justice along the US-Mexico border. And our moderator for today's second panel is Mindy Nierenberg, the Senior Director of Tisch Programs at Tufts University's Tisch College. Mindy oversees the development and supervision of projects and programs for Tisch College for undergraduate and graduate students. In 2012, she was awarded the Tufts Distinction Award for University Changemaker. She has served as a national consultant in the field of visual art and civic engagement, and taught the ex-college course Art, Activism, and Community, Visual Arts for Social Change. Mindy has worked in higher education for over 30 years, and prior to Tisch, she spent 10 years at the Massachusetts College of Art and Design, where she served as an Assistant Dean of Academic Affairs, Associate Dean of Students, and founded the college's Office for Community and Service Learning. Hi, Mindy. I'm going to turn it over to you now, and thank you for all that you do for students at Tufts. I know that I wouldn't be able to be an intern or Tisch Summer Fellow at Americans for the Arts without you and your support, so thank you. Bye, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Abigail, for that wonderful introduction. And I also just want to thank the panel who went before us. I learned so much, and Taeya, my showers will never be the same again in a very positive way. So thanks to all of you. I'm also very, very excited to speak with our three panelists. And I'm going to get right into things since we have a very limited amount of time. So I'd like to begin first with, it's basically a two-part question that the wonderful peer facilitators came up with. And I think the first part of this is, if you could describe any intersections that you see between art and mindfulness and how these play out for you. So Daniela, would you like to respond first to that?
Sure. I also want to echo Mindy. That first panel was extremely inspirational, and I'm very grateful. I think this is a great question and a great segue from the panel that we saw, because I have my artistic training in theater. And I think 100% there is a huge intersection between art and mindfulness. In theatrical practices, a lot of the things you're working with are universal emotions, especially in non-Western theatrical practices. And so rather than focusing on stereotypes or situations, you're focusing on what is the human condition? What do I feel? Why do I feel this way? And as you dive into that work, you're able to really do a lot of self-reflection. And I think that's very powerful and connected to mindfulness. And something that I appreciate is this element of play that is also very necessary in acting and theater and art and life. And I think that willingness to play around, to take joy, and to find moments in which you're able to confidently and safely fail is something that I have been able to connect to my mindfulness practices.
Wow, Daniela, thank you so much for that response. And I think especially the part that you spoke to around playfulness and joy, I think that sometimes that is not always included, whether in the practice of art or the practice of mindfulness or social change. So that is a really interesting thing for people to think about, because joy is an essential part of life, even in the most devastating of times as we are currently in. Just wondering if either Deb or Jay would want to add anything to that.
Sorry, it took me a second to find my mute button. I just want to hop on the praise train really quickly for the first panel. Victoria, you're quoted now with the mindfulness for you was regarding your well-being as sacred. It was just like a light bulb moment that hit me in my spirit. Like Daniela, my training is in theater and also music. And I know when I was younger, I had a very, let's call it a spicy attitude. And especially when I felt things like injustice, I would just get very angry very quickly. And a lot of my theater training, there were two things that stood out. One was one of my teachers saying, you need to learn how to accept and release as an actor. Accept the impulse, accept the moment, and then let it go. And that was something I started bringing into my actual life. It's just like, I don't need to be this angry. I can acknowledge this moment, I can acknowledge this feeling, and then I can be done with it and free myself from it, which was a really big thing for me. The second piece was when you're learning the art of performing, you kind of have to have this meta awareness of where do emotions live in my body? And that's important because then I can figure out if I need to tap into sadness or tap into anger or tap into joy. I know where that lives physically and I can do that. And that awareness is also helpful with mindfulness because now it's just like, oh, the chest is tightening, the hand is clenching. I seem to be in a stress response. I need to breathe out of this. And so I would say those two things were really helpful. And it's kind of the awareness that some folks were talking about in the last panel as well.
Wow. Again, thank you, Jay. Like thinking about having an awareness of where emotions live in your body. I think that that's something that I don't know enough about for myself, and makes me really want to try to focus on that. And I appreciate that. So I'm going to go to the second part of this question. And so we've been talking about this art mindfulness connection, and now wondering about how does that connection serve as self-care for you as you work to enact social change? So again, remember, this was from our student leaders. And I think I'm going to add a part to here where thinking about self-care is often the last thing that many of us will put on our to-do list. I know that's true for me. And sometimes it's even considered a selfish act to take care of yourself first and put aside other things. And and so this has been something that I've thought about a lot, and previously had come across this quote by Audre Lorde, who's an artist and activist herself. And she writes, "Caring for myself is not self-indulgent, it's self-preservation. And that is an act of political warfare." So keeping that in mind, and any of your own thoughts around how art and mindfulness relate to your thoughts around social change, whether it is art making or in any other way, could you respond to this? And Deb, I'm going to go to you first on that.
Okay, I also wanted to echo, I was so blown away by the panel before and so inspired by them. So I just, I've just been learning so much, but it's interesting because as someone that I struggle a lot with anxiety, and I've always used my art making and my creativity as a way to kind of deal with those emotions, and also like political theme, like just, it's always been kind of this tool for me to kind of process emotion, which I think when Jay was talking, I didn't have that clarity kind of doing it, but I would just get involved in materiality. So I loved kind of like mixing paint and getting dirty and like being in my studio and kind of, and I think that was my form of self-care. I think it's still my form of self-care through the pandemic. It's like, I need to like make my work, and then I also need to share what I know with other people so that they can connect with their own creativity and personal expressive capacity. So I feel like once it's almost like I take care of myself through my own making, and then I kind of want to give that out to others in terms of like, you have this capacity. It's not just for artists, that everyone listening today, like you have this within you. So it's like, that's how I've kind of, help people understand that like making mistakes is really important, like getting involved and not knowing where you're going, being in this process kind of, experience. Like we don't always know where we're going as artists, probably most of the time, but we're kind of in there in the muck, like when we were 5. And I think, helping others kind of understand that, I think that's always been kind of my balance of like myself dealing with my stuff and then putting it out and helping other people find their own creative selves.
Wow. Thank you so much for that, Deb. And just thinking about the concept of materiality, I don't even think I'm getting that out properly, but the idea of immersing oneself into a process, and whether it is through visual art making materials or music or theater, it's that razor sharp immersive process where you are both beyond yourself, inside yourself, and encompassed in a world all at the same time. So I'd love to hear what Jay has to say about that as a performing artist.
Yeah, I love how you're framing these things. You're making me like even more like possible artists. I think I actually want to jump back to what Daniela was saying in the first question. I work a lot with emerging artists, and these are people who are trying to do their art as a career. And obviously I spent time in school learning how to do my art. And one thing that I find is when you begin to bring an academic focus to your work or a professional focus to your work, you forget to play. You forget why you were invested in the first place, and it becomes stressful. And all of a sudden, this art that you engaged with to express, to explore, to feel, to connect, and now becomes work. And now becomes, I have to understand this theory and technique. And so I find a lot of my work is reintroducing the concept of play to artists who get to a certain level so they can kind of connect back to it. And so I think that is a very key piece of that being a part of self-care, is even how we as artists are using and connecting with our art. And it's about saying, for a second, I'm not thinking about how this is going to make me money. For a second, I'm not thinking about how I need to learn all these scales or whatever. I'm just going to jam out. I'm just going to sing loudly at karaoke and maybe sound bad and be okay with it, and kind of release and have that freedom that way. The second piece that I'll say as it relates to social change is something I brought up in the last panel a couple weeks ago. Whereas we learn about different movement strategies, we learn that there are different pieces to enacting change. There's the mass protest, which we see a lot right now, which is about bringing attention to a particular issue. There's inside game, which is about using pre-existing structures like laws, like people or whatever, to make this change. The one that I favor, possibly because of my identity as an artist, is personal transformation, which says, we have to transform ourselves and transform the people around us. And the reason I believe that it's most important is you can't really change laws if you don't change people's perspectives. If they don't believe in empathy, if they don't believe in equity, then that's not going to really move forward. You can't connect with people. You can't put yourself in here, right? And so I feel like really thinking about, and this is why I love about the Lord quote about it being self-preservation, doing this work inwardly, doing this work to transform yourself, I think is the foundation for everything else as it relates to social change and social justice. If we are not transforming hearts and minds and opinions and beliefs, then the work is just going to falter at some point.
Wow. I wish I would have written that down. That's just awesome. And it also makes me think about, if anyone has seen, there's a series on YouTube of conversations between Angela Davis, so a very well-known activist since the 1960s, and Jon Kabat-Zinn, who is a prominent actor, I'll say, in the mindfulness meditation movement. And it's all about that connection between mindfulness and social change, and speaks to some of what Jay has just articulated really beautifully. So thank you for that. We're going to move on to the next question, which is thinking, and it's very apt and fitting now as we currently have two intersecting pandemics. So one around COVID-19 and another thinking about the spotlight that has gone on the entrenched structural racism that has existed in our country since its founding and before. And so these two have now come together, and there is an extraordinarily important, most important movement, I'd say, in my lifetime around Black Lives Matters and racial justice. So if you think about these things happening at the same time right now, and other things, which I won't go into right now, you can imagine, and we all, I think, have experienced at least one and maybe all of these. So it's stress, anxiety, anger, fury, fear, hopelessness, helplessness, exhaustion. The list goes on and on. So I'm wondering if you could share your thoughts on how art can be a tool towards healing. So I'm not going to say to heal, because I'm not certain that anyone can be fully healed right now given this environment, but maybe one of you will correct me on that. So how can art be utilized as a tool towards healing right now? And I'm going to start on that with Daniela.
Oh, this is a very big question. I think the first thing I want to say is something I find really comforting about art in all of its forms, whether it's visual, written, music, performance, dance, is that there are things that speak to us all as individuals. And at the end of the day, we have, for whatever reason, our aesthetic appeals and our emotional appeals. And so there are things that are going to talk to different people, that are going to provoke different people or comfort them in different ways. And I think that finding that is really important, and knowing that, we we are controlled by emotions, and we are controlled by our likes and our dislikes, and there's a place in which art is able to speak to us on a personal level, and it might not speak to another person. And I think that knowing that you have the opportunity to go out and find that is like it's an adventure, and it is very hopeful in this situation that there are so many things to be explored. I think, I'm thinking a lot about theater in Chile and in Argentina, places that had really terrible dictatorships, and theater of memory, and the way that other places and other times have used arts to not only heal, but to confront these issues. And I am really seeing, or I'm putting my hope in art that we can also make and create that will allow us to process all of these things, which go back to, the 1400s. And we can start there in our creation, and we can go back and we can think, okay, what moments can I, in this current moment, draw inspiration from that also allow me to remove myself from this moment while reflecting the exact same thing? Because I think it's really important to take distance sometimes. And I think we have so many historical moments that we can draw upon that mirror this moment now. And looking back on those to help us process now is something that I'm really gunning for in terms of like artistic healing. I hope that made sense.
That made total sense to me. And Daniela, I have to say that I think from the way that I was asking that question, I revealed my own state of mind in this time right now. And I think that your response helped me personally to remember that healing is a process and that it doesn't happen magically. Okay, you're healed. That we can overcome the challenges and the walls around what we might see. And I'll say what I might see about healing and having mindfulness during this time, and recognize that each and every day is a process toward ultimate healing. So thank you for that. And now to Deb.
I think this is it's a very interesting question. As Daniela was talking, I was thinking about like the normal things that maybe before the pandemic we had, like to go to a museum. I remember after 9/11 going to the MFA and having that sense of like connecting with or communing with some of my favorite paintings was very calming. It helped me kind of deal with my anxiety. But our normal kind of, we can't go to the theater right now. We can't go to museums. And so, I've noticed that for myself, I've had to figure out other ways to kind of help myself and then other people. I've spent most of my time, to be honest, I have not been a lot in my own studio. I've been more working with other people to help them deal with their own emotion and anxiety through the art. So I've been helping older people and younger people use art as a way to kind of deal with the emotion of stress and anxiety, and doing those blind contour drawings. So it's interesting. I mean, this might not be exactly the question you're asking, but I think as creatives, I think people are forced to be creative in different ways because we don't have those normal kind of outlets to go to. And then I think, I don't know, I lost my train of thought, but it's an interesting question, because I think for me, it's pushed me out of my comfort zone of helping people in different kinds of ways, like on Zoom. Like I've been working on Zoom for like the last 4 or 5 months with older, just all these different people. And it's in a different kind of way to help them navigate their own emotional kind of, fear and anxiety and stress and overwhelm, and whether they're 5 years old or 90 years old. I've worked with this gamut. And so I don't know, it's an interesting question on the side of both a creator and the side of like an educator and someone that tries to help people use art as a way to navigate their emotions.
Thank you, Deb. Our next question is really thinking about all the students that are on here. And many students who don't currently identify as artists sometimes see art as something for others to do. And also something happens sometime in childhood where people think that creation of any kind of art requires talents that they don't have. And so one of the things I think about is that when art is used for social change, it can be the most powerful tool of all, since it connects us all as sentient human beings. And so what advice do any of you have for students to be able to utilize art as a way to build emotional resilience, promote civic engagement, or create social change? And we'll start with Jay.
Yeah, I love this question. I would say first and foremost, at the most basic level, is to consume art. Consume different types of art. Consume art that you're not used to. Consume art of people that you don't usually listen to or watch. And then share that art out with people so that it reaches a wider network. And then also support those artists. So I would say consume, share, support, and share. And I think that's just about taking in new information. It's about, because I believe that art has the power to present information in a spiritual way. I think it's very easy for us to have these very technical understandings and these historical and intellectual understandings of these issues. But I think the unique thing about art is it takes it and it hits you in the chest with it, where it's now this deep empathetic resonance of like, oh, this is like pain. Oh, this is struggle. Oh, this is joy. And I feel like consuming art is very important because then it goes back to the personal transformation. I don't think intellectually that causes shifts in people. I think it's once they feel something, then they can shift. So that's the first level. Level two, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm one of those elite artists sometimes. One of my least favorite things is singing happy birthday in like groups, because I'm just like, you guys are 9 different keys and I don't know where I should be singing and it's driving me crazy. And so I know that I'm like one of those people that makes other people uncomfortable when it comes to their music. So one, ignore people like me. And then two, art belongs to nobody, right? Like literally ignore us, because we are not the only people that get to hold art, that get to be the gatekeepers and practitioners. So just do it. And it can be private. It can be just, yes, these doodles that you do at your desk, or these prompts you're doing, or these poems. Like it can be whatever. And I think it's about developing a safe community to feel safe to put this stuff out there, and know that there are no art police. Ignore the people like us. We'll get over it. We'll be fine. We have other places to go. So yeah, I would say give yourself the freedom to explore and connect with that. And you might find that you have a really unique voice and perspective that you're bringing into this space.
I love that, creating room to explore. And there are no art police. I used to run an arts and literacy program for second graders. And one of the second graders wrote a big sign that she had just made up that said, "I love art because there are no mistakes in art." And that is the absolute truth out of the mouth of a second grader. So next we'll go to Deb.
So the segue to no mistakes, I mean, I think that my whole work, besides my work as an artist, is really helping people kind of connect to their innate creativity. And I feel so strongly about this that I really, I just think that everyone has a creative voice within them. And I would say that anyone that's on here that is curious about just being involved in the arts or making something, it's really, it's something that we all have when we're young. When we're young, we're 3 or 4, we all are connected to especially our drawing mind. It's a part of ourselves that's innate to all of us. And just to have the permission to explore kind of your one-of-a-kind drawing mind, I think, there are no mistakes, and that, getting involved in the sense of play and doodling and learning how to kind of express yourselves through the art is innate to all of us. So.
Innate to all of us, definitely true. And we'll end with Daniela answering this question, who amongst the 4 of us has most recently been a student.
I agree with everything that Jay and Deb said, and I just want to add one last thing. I think we live in a moment in which sometimes parents or people in power will say like, "Oh, you want to be an artist?" or what's your day job gonna be? And I think that really discredits a lot of hard work, and it also denies the fact that some aspects of being an artist are not just exclusive to that art form. So back in February, I had the privilege to go with Mindy to the Impact Conference, which is a conference about civic engagement for students. And we presented on art and its role in civic engagement. And something that I talked a lot about is my dream in life, which talk about something that is going to require a day job, but I want to be a clown. And that sounds so silly. And it seems like a joke. But when I reflect on what it takes to be a clown, I think, wow, those are qualities that I need to also use as an activist. Like, what does it mean to follow your impulse in a situation in which maybe somebody is saying something that you either don't agree with or you find offensive? Do you follow your impulse in that moment as an activist? Or like, how do you maneuver these things? And so I think that I would advise students to start to open their minds a little bit and find the possibilities where your talents and skill set as an artist can also be put into your work as an activist, because I think that that's really important as well.
Thank you, Daniela. So true. And, you know, I think if I could add one more piece of this for students who don't identify as artists, identifying as an artist has nothing to do with the practice of art making, and that you can engage yourself in creativity through so many different ways. And art encompasses creativity, imagination, joyfulness, expression of emotions. And that connects with mindfulness as well, in the idea of having a way to focus through small acts in constant and consistent ways. And that is an art practice, and that is a mindfulness practice, as our panel previously expressed. So one last question around, again, going back to the current situation we're in with the pandemic. Can you talk about any ways that it's affected you as an obstacle, and you as an artist activist as an obstacle, or as a moment of opportunity, or both? And so anyone who'd like to respond to that, I'd appreciate it.
I can respond. I mean, I'll respond. I think it has been an opportunity in some ways. And I think that sometimes in the most difficult circumstances, that's when creativity really flourishes. And so I think that for myself, and when you said the ripple effect, you know, like the small acts, I really want to echo kind of that sentiment that, you know, the small acts that we take, even if they're, you know, a couple minutes every day that you give towards kind of doing something for your creative mind can be really powerful. So that's to go to that question. But the other question about, I feel like it's been something where I've had to push myself in new creative ways. And that's been really kind of empowering. And also, you know, I think artists are almost made for this time because we have to think flexibly all the time. And so it's like, you know, I think it's just, I don't know if Jay and Daniela agree with this, but I think there's that, we're kind of born to kind of always think on our feet and kind of think in new ways. And so as horrible as it has been, I think it's opened my eyes into how the arts can really be kind of a beacon and a way forward for our society in lots of different ways.
Mm-hmm. Jay or Daniela, what do you think?
Yeah, two things. One is I've really come into the deep intrinsic understanding that sometimes art can just be entertainment. Sometimes it can just be a respite, and that is okay. I'm in my anime now. I used to love like dark anime that has like all these themes, and now it's just like crazy, silly stuff. And I'm just like, oh, thank God I need this, right? Because I think providing yourself an emotional place to just escape and be, and not have to constantly be present and sitting. And because I think sometimes also as artists, we're very empathic, and I think we kind of absorb sometimes all this energy that's in there, and if we don't provide a space for ourselves to be safe from all of the energy, I think it can overtake us. Two, I love what Deb just said, and I think it actually goes back to the last question. As you connect with artistry and build these small moments into your life in the same way that mindfulness works, it also boosts your creativity. And I think it's a little bit separate. There's artistry and there's creativity. Since this pandemic has begun, I have not been able to be artistic. I haven't made any music. I haven't written anything. I just couldn't. But I have been so creative. My work has shifted. I've had to remodel programs. I've had to work in consultation and develop new things there. And so although my artist brain is a little bit relaxed, I think that energy has been in the creative space. And I think it's been really beautiful to watch. And so and I couldn't have been able to do this if I hadn't been flexing that other muscle for all this time. So I think that's a really great place to engage and something to think about as you think about trying to maybe include artistry more in your life. A great benefit is that you're more creative and it lends itself to whatever space you're in.
Exactly. So thank you. I think we're going to end on that note. And I so appreciate spending this time with the three of you and with the larger group. And I am very moved by each of your testimonies as to the way that art has impacted your activism and your interest and participation as social change agents, and how that connects with mindfulness. And would love to continue this conversation outside of here during other times. So thank you so much to everyone for giving us this opportunity, and thank you to each of the panelists.
Thank you so much. This was an absolutely beautiful session. I loved panel 1, and thank you so much to all of you on panel 2. Your words of your conversation was just so inspiring, so insightful. And as you can see in my virtual background here, I have this wonderful picture of Mindy and Daniela. Mindy, you surprised?
Yes.
So we can talk later about how I got this, but I love this photo, and I put it up just to say at the end of the panel, just to honor you. Thank you for moderating this panel today. It was just beautifully, skillfully done. And thank you for your 17 plus amazing years at Tisch College. And for those who are not aware, Mindy is retiring and will have her last day on Friday of this week. And Mindy is so beloved and will be so missed, but she will still stay connected and be very involved. And we're so excited to see where you move and grow as an artist. But I love this photo. And also, Mindy, just want to let you know, I don't know if you can see this, but there is an orchid that I guess you can't see that, but this orchid is going to be delivered at your house in about within 2 hours. So stay tuned. You saw the cellophane. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And actually, I will have more time to devote to the piece of myself that's an artist. And that is the one thing out of leaving Tufts and Tisch that I'm so mournful about. That's the kind of shining star of thinking about that life beyond this. So thank you so much, Deb.
Yeah, we love you, Mindy, so much. Thank you so much again to all of the panelists. And right now I want to take the opportunity to give a very, very warm and heartfelt thank you to a number of folks. So I'll start with Alan Solomon, who's the Dean of Tisch College, for initiating and supporting this summer webinar series and for entrusting me to lead it. It's been such an honor. A really heartfelt thanks to Peter Levine for all of your excellent thought partners support and encouragement from beginning to end. It's been so great to work with you. To the Tisch College communications team, to Jen McAndrew, Jess Burns, Shanley Daly, and Alberto Medino for all of their very, very crucial support and encouragement each week. And I'd like to give a special shout out to Jess Burns, who so skillfully managed all of the tech details along with putting together a detailed run of show every single week. and always with such positivity and encouragement. And just thank you for your patience with me for last minute changes. I also want to give a shout out to the Tufts Technology Services, everyone who helped us. They were all amazing, and we're so grateful. A huge thanks go to all of the fabulous panelists and moderators who joined us for the weekly webinar series. Their willingness to share experiences and expertise, perspectives, along with their tips and insights around self-care for navigating COVID-19, structural racism, and other very difficult social challenges that we have right now. I'd also really like to thank the Omidyar Group and the Silicon Valley Community Foundation for providing some funding for this. Just huge thanks. All of the Tufts students who participated in this webinar series, all of you who participated, those who were in the Certificate of Participation program, your reflections are so inspiring every week. And then finally, last but definitely not least, I want to give a huge, huge shout out to the students who were on the student advisors team. It's absolutely a joy to work with all of you. I'll name your names now: Abigail Alpern Fisch, Alejandro Baez, Aram Lee, Derek Sosa, Julia Prochen, and Rose Wang. And you all are so amazing. You're brilliant, and I learned so much from you. And I'm just really so grateful for your partnering with me throughout this seminar series. So, and I'm really glad that everyone who has been participating has also been able to see your brilliance. So thank you so much to everyone. And with that, I'm going to share my screen before the student advisors come on. I'm going to share my screen and invite those of you who have joined us today to complete a poll. So I'm going to activate this, put it on full screen. So I'm going to invite you to complete this poll, which is to type one word that captures your main learning during the Tisch summer webinar series. And so what you can do on any device is go to pollev.com, pollev.com, and then enter Tisch webinar, and then just respond to this question. So you can type a word. If you want to type 2 words, that's fine. Go ahead and type 2. But if everyone could do that right now, and we'll give that a minute. So this is live, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And while we're pulling together the results, the wonderful student advisors are going to come on the screen in gallery view.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Deborah, for the introduction and all the work that you do to have made this webinar series possible. We are so lucky to be able to work with you and everyone involved in making this Tisch series happen. And as the series comes to a close, we wanted to send our appreciation for all of those who have attended and have been engaged during the live sessions and asynchronously. And I'm going to turn it over to Julia, who's here.
Thank you, Abigail. So I wanted to share some more opportunities beyond this incredible webinar series, or as part of it in the coming week, to stay involved. So a huge shout out again to Deborah and the Tisch Initiative on Social Emotional Learning and Civic Engagement. So next Wednesday, August 5th from 11 to 11:50 in the morning Eastern time, we're hoping to lead a discussion to further reflect on what we've been learning over these past 2 sessions and to think more about additional methods of taking action. And we're also going to share a link in the chat for anyone that wants to learn more about the incredible work that the team does.
I just want to take the moment to thank the panelists for coming today and sharing their wisdom, and to everyone who's been with us throughout this whole series, or even if you're just joining us today, we're so grateful that you were able to participate. We hope that you found all of this meaningful and engaging and are able to take some of what our panelists have said into your own daily lives. Just a quick reminder that we will be having a discussion group from 12:30 to 1 today, and to fill out the survey that will be released later this afternoon, especially if you're interested in having a discussion group next week. And please take care of yourselves. I guess we can pass it back to Deborah to maybe show the poll.
So unfortunately, the word cloud is not working at the moment. So what we'll do is we will post it. We'll post it on the Canvas site. We'll also post it in social media once it comes up, and I will ask TTS for a little bit of help with this. But again, huge thanks to everyone for this amazing webinar series. We're so grateful, and we hope that you'll join us many of you will join us for the discussion group this afternoon. All right, be well.
Bye, everyone.